Question number 8. Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Local Government and asks, what will she do to build support and acceptance for Māori participation in local government?
Mr Speaker, Merry Christmas.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
It may come as a complete surprise to that member, but I look forward to working alongside local government to increase civic participation and, importantly, their efforts to engage Māori in local planning and decision-making.
Parliamentary. Does she agree that there are hugely destructive consequences of division, separatism, parallel representation and parallel laws within the local government sector?
Mr Speaker, what I do acknowledge is that there are many councils who are meeting the challenge of increasing engagement and participation with Māori and iwi. They are doing some very good work at a number of levels. Much of this is arising from the treaty settlement space, and I want to applaud those councils who have made a decision to move towards Māori wards. It's their decision and we should support them.
Absolutely.
Does she feel she has an obligation to stand up for Māori New Zealanders and condemn anti-Māori statements such as that we have political separatism, a pathway to purgatory?
Order.
Order. No, as the Minister of Local Government, there's no responsibility in that area.
Point of order. Point of order.
Well, the beginning of the question was, does she have responsibility to stand up for Māori New Zealanders?
No.
There are certainly members of the Cabinet who have that responsibility, not that member in this portfolio.
Can I rephrase the question then, Mr Speaker?
I'll be generous and you can have another go.
Okay. As Minister of Local Government, does she feel she has an obligation to stand up for Māori New Zealanders and condemn anti-Māori statements about the practices within the local government sector, such as that we have political separatism, a pathway to purgatory?
Can I thank that question from that Māori member and acknowledge that the views of others, while I don't hold them, are the views of others. By and large, local government is working constructively to meet the challenge of increasing civic participation. There has been continual low turnout at local government elections. They want to do something about it. They are taking leadership in some areas to increase participation of specific groups.
What will she say then, as Minister, to the prominent political leader who said to Local Government New Zealand recently, in local government, as in central government, there has been a pandering to division, separatism, parallel representation and parallel laws without any regard to the hugely destructive consequences, that quote being from Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Speaker, we're a coalition government that recognises and understands. Mr Speaker, we're a coalition government that recognises and understands the many challenges within our communities. While that member wants to kick the tyres, what I can say is that we do believe that by working together, we do believe, you may not like it, but we do believe that by working together for the benefit of all New Zealanders, many boats can rise, and we're making some good inroads, and the 100-day plan is just the beginning.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Will the Minister confirm that as far as the Māori people are concerned, where it impacts on her portfolio, that she and this government is interested in equality based on not pigeonholing people, but by judging them on their performance, their commitment and their skills, and not discovering that they are Māori in the same way Columbus discovered America, purely by accident?
A point of order. Order. The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Simply this, Mr Speaker. We were earlier on pulled up for having a number of parts in our questions. That had several parts and it's clearly out of order.
And what I will do, as I did earlier, and I won't
Christmas time.
And allow the Minister to answer any of the questions that were asked.
And so far as my portfolio responsibility is concerned...
Member will resume seat. A point of order, the Honourable Jerry Browning.
Well, noting the content of that extensive question and its rather pointed aspects, I wonder if you might consider, sir, also allowing Willie Jackson to answer that question.
Mr Speaker, and so Mr Speaker. And so far...
No, I'm just sort of considering how trifling that was and whether it just deserves anything else. But again, I'll be kind to the member.
Mr Speaker, and so far as my portfolio is concerned, I can assure many members in this House, as they will know, that representation on councils is first and foremost based on merit and a will and willingness to serve their community and the interests that are there. They do recognise there is an overall challenge about increasing civic participation, and I am engaging with them on that matter.
Kiritapu Allen.
Does the Minister advocate for separate Māori representation in every local authority?
Mr Speaker, I support local democracy, and I want to acknowledge and applaud those councils who believe that Māori wards is one of many ways to ensure that valuable contributions can be made to the decision-making and planning processes in their district. Their leadership will make a difference. They want to ensure that that reflects the will of their local community.
Point of order. Point of order.
A point of order, Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table a document prepared by the Parliamentary Library for my office, which is a compilation of quotes from Right Honourable Winston Peters about this very issue. It's from the library.
Have those quotes been previously published?
It's a compilation, sir, from the library. The library document has not. It's from the library.
I'll put it in the hands of the House. I think it's a marginal call if all it is a republication. But is there any objection to that book being tabled? There appears to be none. It can be tabled. Question number 9, Clayton Mitchell.
Mr Speaker, and a Merry Christmas to you in the House, sir. My question